Hi, I'm Pastor Krysta Rexroad Wolf with Cross Lanes United Methodist Church, and I want to give you a little bit of a preview of the sermon that will be released on Sunday, April 19th. We're going to be talking about Thomas and his interaction with Jesus after the resurrection in John 20, verses 19 to 31. This week, the gospel story is the story of the disciples locked in a hidden room after the events of Easter morning, which takes place in John chapter 20, verses 19 to 31. In this story, Jesus appears to his friends, the gathered disciples, except for Thomas, who is missing. When Thomas comes back and finds that he missed Jesus, he demands to see Jesus for himself. For this request, Thomas is known throughout history as Doubting Thomas. There is much to say, I think, to Thomas's credit, not least of which is that Jesus obliges Thomas's request. Jesus returns to visit Thomas. And I think Jesus does this in part because God honors those who seek the truth. I do not believe God is offended by questions or doubts. In fact, if coupled with seeking, questions and doubts have the profound ability to provide clarity, to deepen faith, to embrace mystery. I think certainty is often an impediment to growth, while questions have the power to demand an experience of God. Normally, when I preach this passage, I focus on the importance of what I call holy doubt. Holy doubt is doubt which draws you closer to Jesus. I believe church is a place for this kind of doubt because I believe church is a place for questions, for exploration, and for communal seeking. I've prayed since August of 2018 that Cross Lanes United Methodist Church would be a place where people can ask life's hardest questions in order to promote peace in our relationships, to develop contentment of spirit, and to grow in deeds of mercy and justice. For me, asking questions about the Bible and about God, even and maybe especially those questions with no answer, is a spiritual discipline, and it's not to be underestimated. It is vitally important for our souls and for the soul of our church that we be seeking people. Normally, I make this point by focusing on the exchange between Thomas and Jesus. It begins in verse 26, when Jesus' disciples are gathered again in the house, and Thomas was with them this time. Although the doors were shut, Jesus came and stood among them and said, "Peace be with you." Then he said to Thomas, "Put your finger here and see my hands. Reach out your hand and put it in my side. Do not doubt, but believe." Thomas answered him, "My Lord and my God." Jesus said to him, "Have you believed because you have seen me? Blessed are those who have not seen and yet come to believe." This year, when I read the passage, my gaze was drawn to the exchange between Thomas and the other disciples and the ways that exchange recalls earlier parts of the gospel. Backing up to verse 23, Jesus tells the gathered disciples after he breathes on them, "If you forgive the sins of any, they are forgiven them. If you retain the sins of any, they are retained." But Thomas, one of the 12, was not with them when Jesus came. So the other disciples told Thomas, "We have seen the Lord." But Thomas said to them, "Unless I see the mark of the nails in his hands and put my finger in the mark of the nails and my hand in his side, I will not believe." Thomas didn't just want to be told. He wanted to experience Jesus. If doubt was all he had, he would have brushed off the testimony of his brothers. But he had holy doubt. And holy doubt demanded that he see Jesus for himself. Thomas is seeking in the way that Jesus taught him to seek, with all 5 senses. Throughout the Gospels, we see Jesus appeal to the senses, to fragrance, to beauty, to experience. It made me think about all the times I have experienced Jesus with my 5 senses. And it made me stop and give thanks for the sacraments of the church, which are experienced with our bodies. When we gather for communion, we break bread and we smell it and eat it together. We drink from a cup that we can really see and really hold and really press against our lips. When we are baptized in water that drips down our faces and gets in our ears and trickles down our backs. Our bodies are the vessels by which we experience the world. But not just the world, they are the vessels through which we experience God. And it was through a body that God experienced the world in the person of Jesus. Our bodies matter. Today, in preparation for the gospel lesson, I hope that you can think of some ways that you have experienced the good news of salvation through your senses. I hope you will do something to thank your body. And I hope as you do it, you recognize your body as a blessing. Help us reflect on the blessing of our bodies and the ways we experience the world and God. I'd like to share these words from Jan Richardson, in which she pushes people to consider their bodies as a temple or a place God dwells. Hear these words. This blessing takes one look at you, and all it can say is, holy. Holy hands, holy face, holy feet, holy everything in between. Holy even in pain. Holy even when weary. In brokenness, holy. In shame, holy still. Holy in delight, holy in distress. Holy when being born. Holy when we lay it down at the hour of our death. So, friend, open your eyes, holy eyes, for one moment. See what this blessing sees. This blessing that knows how you have been formed and knit together in wonder and in love. Welcome this blessing that folds its hands in prayer when it meets you. Receive this blessing that wants to kneel in reverence before you, you who are temple, sanctuary, home for God in this world. I hope you'll join me online on Cross Lanes United Methodist Church's Facebook and YouTube channels as we continue to explore how we experience God in the world through all 5 senses as we share in the gospel lesson on Sunday.